Last time, the big brands stole the spotlight, but then the comments blew up again, and suddenly it was clear that there's a whole other world of cycling kit that riders never talk about. The smaller brands, the ones with fewer logos, way less marketing, but still serious performance. So today, we are fixing it. These are the 20 most underrated cycling kit brands chosen from hundreds of real riders. So let's get into it. Number 20, Funkier. Funkier is one of those brands that riders, I think, bump into really early on because their pricing makes it a really easy entry point. I haven't worn it myself, but from what people describe, it seems to deliver exactly what you would expect. Simple kit, solid value, and nothing over-engineered. A very honest number 20, and the calm before things start to get interesting. Because now we've got number 20, Monton from Taiwan. Now, Monton is interesting because riders who mention it always talk about the materials first. And I'll admit, the fabrics and construction look much more premium than the branding suggests. It's one of those factory direct brands that seems to put the money into the product rather than the marketing. Comments describe this as high value, race cut, and a bit of a hidden performer, especially for riders paying attention to cost per ride. And then we move to 17. 17 is Nalini from Italy. Nalini is one of those brands you hear about once you've been in the sport long enough to look past Instagram ads. And from what riders tell me, they've been sewing pro team kits for decades, often without taking credit. The production quality looks genuinely solid, and their prices seem to last longer than most. They aren't a hype brand. Nalini just quietly does the fundamentals really well, as far as I can tell, and still somehow flies under the radar. And if this one surprised you, just wait. The next one has a very, very different energy. Number 15, Gobic. Now, Gobic from Spain. Do you ride in Gobic? Because it came up in a really interesting way. Riders saying it fits beautifully, it looks clean, modern, and it feels just a bit ahead of the curve. And from the outside, it looks like a brand that really understands color, shape, and style. It's especially big in Spain. If you've ever ridden there, you've seen Gobic everywhere. But outside of that scene, it still feels like a hidden gem, even if the rest of the world hasn't caught up yet. And now we slide into one of the most opinion-splitting brands on the whole list. Number 14, Ikoi. I'm sure there's a better way to say it, but it's one of the most mentioned value surprises in the comments. And I haven't used their kit myself, but I have a couple of buddies that swear by it. They absolutely love it, and they keep pointing two things out. The materials seem better than you expect for the price, and the constant sales make it incredibly accessible. It's also interesting because Ikoi shows up at World Tour level, which gives it more credibility than most budget-friendly brands. At the same time, people are really divided. Some say the fit is brilliant, others say it's inconsistent. When it works, it really works, and the price makes it hard to ignore. Now, number 13 from the USA, Velocio. Velocio? Velocio. Well, their reputation around the traps is almost universally strong. Riders talk about craftsmanship, they talk about stitching, finishing, long-term durability, rather than hype or marketing. And it sits in that quiet premium space where it's high quality, it's understated, and it's clearly built with intention. If Rafa is the teaser trailer, Velocio feels like the slow, beautifully made film underneath it. It's not loud, it's not cheap, just consistently well regarded by riders who value refinement over branding. Number 11, Le Col from the UK. LaCole was fascinating because in the first video, I talked about how much of their identity hinges on marketing, especially those Strava challenges where you hit a mileage goal and you unlock a discount. It's clever psychology and it ties the brand directly to your sense of achievement. And from everything I saw back then, they seemed to spend heavily on campaigns and positioning. This time though, the comments added nuance to it. The marketing still feels loud and confusing to some riders, but almost nobody criticized the kit itself. If anything, the message was good product, unclear strategy. So LaCole ends up underrated almost by accident. Solid gear overshadowed by noisy branding. Now, we are exactly halfway. When I got to this point, there was a pattern forming. The big brands dominate the conversation, but the smaller brands, little marketing, but big loyalty. The ones riders defend in the comments long after the big brands leave the room. So let's get into the top 10 with the strong opinions, the curveballs, and the cult favorites, and a couple of brands that genuinely surprised me. Number 10. It's Australian, so I know about it. Attacker. Attacker is one of those brands that riders speak about with real conviction, one way or another. The feedback is always the same pattern. They have bold designs, technical fabrics, and a fit that feels sharp and athletic. It has a very distinct personality. There's no Italian heritage, not Scandinavian minimalism, just unapologetically Australian. If I think, is that really a thing though? Some riders absolutely love that energy. Others prefer something quieter, and that's usually the sign of a brand doing something intentional. Attacker sits at number 10 because it consistently shows up in conversations about comfort and style from riders who take their kit seriously, but maybe not their riding. There's a bit of a hint there. It's a brand that earns loyalty by being different, and that is enough said. Number 9, another Australian one on the list, Pedal Mafia. Pedal Mafia showed up with a surprising amount of rider enthusiasm. The feedback around comfort, fit, and overall feel was consistently strong, especially from riders who've come from bigger premium brands. And it seems to sit right in that sweet spot where you have premium materials, clean branding, well-finished details without drifting into inflated pricing or over-the-top marketing. A lot of riders described it as the brand that quietly becomes their everyday go-to. So if Attacker brings energy and expression, Pedal Mafia brings refinement and all-day comfort. It's calm, confident, and clearly built for riders who care more about feel than flash, obviously depending on what style you pick though. But yeah, a very solid number 9 that sets the tone perfectly for the rest of the top 10. Now, number 8. Have you heard of this brand? Can you see it from there? Code. Code is one of the most surprising names on the list. Not because it dominated the conversation, but because the tone of the mentions stood out so clearly. And I'll admit, I'm still suspect that this wasn't a guerrilla marketing campaign, but I will let you be the judge. Riders described the bibs as superbly comfortable, the construction as genuinely solid, and the fit as far as better than you'd expect from any tiny brand. And that contrast, tiny brand, big praise, is exactly why Code earns a place here. Code lands at number 8 because it represents what an underrated brand really is. It's not a mainstream pick, but that's kind of the whole point of this list. So we move to these two now, which is maybe in a similar brand. They're sharing number 7. Suarez and Safety came up again and again with the same kind of enthusiasm. Bold designs, technical fabrics, and construction that feels far more premium than their global visibility suggests. These brands have a strong reputation across Colombia and Latin America, and several riders describe them as premium at a great price, which is exactly what this list is all about. They seem to blend color, fit, durability in a way that stands out immediately once someone actually tries them. So if cycling weren't so Eurocentric, these two would probably be far more mainstream. Instead, they sit here, a pair of genuinely underrated brands with a passionate local following and the quality to back it up. Now, I'm going to split this into a new mini group with the rest that are remaining, 6 to 4. Which way do I stand? Number 6, or not. It's where this list really starts to tighten up. This brand kept showing up with the same confident tone. Clean designs, reliable fit, and no interest in chasing trends. Riders mentioned how the kit just works, especially their cargo bibs. Not loud, not flashy, not trying to be European or boutique, just thoughtful, practical, well-made gear that quietly earns loyalty. It's the brand that says, okay, now we are getting into the serious stuff. So number 5 is Sirocco. Oh. Where or not is minimalist, Sirocco brings value and performance in a very different way. Riders talk about the SRX and the BX pads with real conviction, the kind of praise normally reserved for much more expensive bibs. Sirocco is probably one of the best examples in this video of a brand that looks budget but performs way above its price tag. It's modern and it's improving every year and seems to punch well above expectations. If or not is the quiet operator, Sirocco is the wait, why is this so good moment. Now we smash it through to number 4. Careful. Vermac from Belgium. From pure value to pure European heritage, Vermac is the kit so many riders in Europe grew up seeing. Club teams, local races, regional squads. The comments were simple but incredibly consistent. Durable, dependable, long-lasting. Vermac feels like the foundation layer of this entire list, the brand that's been quietly setting the standards for decades without ever chasing hype or reinvention. All right, this is our climax. The top 3 aren't the most mentioned brands. They're the brands riders spoke about with the highest conviction. Different styles, different regions, different philosophies even. And number 3, Rise On from Germany is the quiet boutique brand that feels like it should be everywhere, but somehow it isn't. The comments describing it had a very specific tone. They were measured, thoughtful, almost understated. The kind of language you hear from riders who've really paid attention to their kit over the years. Rise On kept being described as premium without the premium performance tax. Technical fabrics, refined cuts, minimalist design, and comfort that riders repeatedly compared to the biggest names in the industry. A perfect number 3. But now we're getting to a really serious end here. And number 2, Red White Apparel, all the way, well, my neighbors, from Singapore. Red White takes the opposite path to Rise On. Where Rise On is polished and refined, Red White is laser focused on one thing, long ride comfort. And the comments reflect that obsession. Phrases like, best long distance pad I've ever used. That doesn't get said lightly. Red White isn't trying to be stylish. It's not a lifestyle brand. It's the place. And number 2 is simple. Almost every rider who uses Red White for long rides seem to abandon anything else. Cyclists don't give loyalty easily, but they gave it here. And now, the brand that earned the number 1 spot. Not by hype or volume, but by trust. Now, I actually don't know how to say this brand so well. Allele. Now, this brand is the kind of brand that riders talk about a lot like a favorite route, with familiarity, affection, and a quiet sense of, yeah, they really get it. The comments were confident and consistent. Favorite bibs, favorite jerseys, fit and comfort that kept people at the top of their drawer because they wanted to reach for it. What makes Alil so underrated is geography. In the US, it's a well-respected premium brand. Outside of the US, almost nobody's talking about it. That is the definition of underrated. A brand that's delivering top-tier comfort and craftsmanship with almost zero global spotlight. In a world where everyone is always chasing the next kit drop, Alil earns the #1 spot because it blends premium feel, rider trust, long-term comfort, and a footprint so small internationally that discovering it genuinely feels like a hidden gem. A 100% rider approved #1.